James and Simon, good afternoon. How are you?
Good, Pete. How are you, mate?
I'm very well. Simon, are you well?
Very well, yeah. Very well indeed. Thanks. Looking forward to this.
Good, man. Well, you just told me you've been preparing all day for this, Simon. James has told me he's given me this zero thought.
Yeah. Probably the story of our lives, huh?
The difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's slightly different. Right, chaps, to give you your formal introductions, Simon here from Precision Sourcing and James Hone from Bluefin Resources. Thank you very much for coming on to Recruitment Journeys. This is our third series of Recruitment Journeys, and trying something a bit different this season, chaps. And you are the guinea pigs to some degree. I was hoping to do it with people who have never met each other, so I could do this like cheesy introduction thing. But you two fellas know each other. You go fishing and everything, don't you?
Yeah, we've played football against each other.
Yeah.
Our kids go to the same school.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've had a few sessions on the Bluefin boat, on my boat anyway.
James, did you know when I hosted the Recruitment World Cup a couple of years ago, Simon Hare was the only person to get a yellow card?
It doesn't surprise me. You get such a lovely guy, but you get him on a soccer pitch, the fiery side of the hair comes out.
Does he change it?
I took my 10-year-old son to watch me play at the weekend for the first time over 35s. And I had to literally get him in a headlock to come and watch because it's like an 8 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday morning. And afterwards he said, "Dad, is there always fights every week?" And I was like, yeah, there is, yeah. And he was like, "Can I come next week?" So there you go.
Especially when you let the Geordies on the pitch, right?
The Mackems, remember, I'm not a Geordie.
What I do remember though is that you had your socks perfectly pulled up to the exact correct height, perfect white socks, perfect presented footballer.
Always been like that. Look at me today. Collar's pinned down.
Your inspiration. Right, I digress. Right, chaps, getting into it. Recruitment Journeys. What we're going to do, I've been trying to avoid the word three-way, but I can't really think of an alternative word. This is a three-way, and we're going to talk about all things recruitment related. Not all things recruitment related. We're going to focus on one particular subject. And I know we're all a little bit sick of talking about COVID, but I also think it's important to, now that it's hopefully somewhat behind us, I think it's important to have a look at the learnings from COVID. And that's what we'll be talking about today, what we've actually learned from COVID. But I've already given you chaps a bit of an introduction earlier on in the podcast, but in your own words, would you mind introducing yourself to the listeners? Simon, you first, please.
So I'm Simon Hare. I am one of the owners and directors of Precision Sourcing. Started life after university in teaching, believe it or not, and decided that was for me, but just not at that moment in time. And found myself at the door of Harvey Nash in London and Mayfair. And the lady who hired me there is now my business partner and dear friend, Jill. So here I am on the other side of the world. And I've been here, 12 years now, and doing my thing, loving it.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that Jill hired you.
She did. It was the first offer I got. I just basically decided that I wanted to be in recruitment and I wanted to live in London. That was the big drive. I loved London. And, you know, you get 2 weeks off as a teacher over Easter. So this rec to rec, just, you know what they're like. They just smashed my diary with interviews, with catering recruitment, banking recruitment, you name it, teaching recruitment, even everything. And I just said to myself, I'll take the first offer I get. And yeah, there you go.
Paid off.
Really?
And Mackem in Mayfair, you were possibly the first Mackem to land in Mayfair, I would have thought.
I'd go out for like lunch on Bond Street and stuff and grab a sandwich from Tesco, and you'd see like Jamie Oliver, George Michael, Liam Gallagher, Paolo Di Canio, Hugh Grant. Like, you just see all these stars. And I remember it was just bizarre. Loved it.
James Hone, for anybody who doesn't know, who are you?
I'm James Hone. I'm the founder and CEO of Bluefin Resources. Established in 2003, sold in 2007. 15, was it?
I think so, yeah.
I have no idea, actually.
Simon knows more than you, James.
2015, sold in 2015, that's correct. Still the CEO, and yeah, also on the board of outsourcing Oceania. Outsourcing Tokyo is the business that I sold Bluefin to back in 2015.
Yeah, but you're still here putting in a shift on a daily basis, James.
Still here in between fishing trips, and yeah, still have the fire in the belly.
Fire in the belly. Well, chaps, if you haven't heard any of the previous recordings, in fact, James, you've been on one. I kind of started each episode with the question, how did you break into recruitment? But I very quickly realized, well, not quickly, eventually I realized that 99% of people all just fell into recruitment. So I've decided to get rid of that question because the answers are getting quite boring. But in order to give the listeners a little bit of an understanding as to who you are and find out a little bit more about you on a personal level before we get into the crux of the chat, I've got 4 questions that I'd like to hit you each with. And I'll start with you, Simon. Who do you most admire in the recruitment industry and why?
That'll be a person, yeah?
Well, or a dog. If there's a dog that you admire in the recruitment industry, go nuts.
Could have been a business. No, I think...
Yes, a person, sorry.
If I didn't say this person, I'd probably get in a lot of trouble. It's got to be Greg Savage, hasn't it? Like, literally, how old is the guy? And he innovates, keeps going, changes. He's massive in that social media world. He packs out huge venues, doesn't he? And I think he's an impressive guy. And he's helped our business a lot over the years. And I think he's, from my point of view, if I had to pick one person, I'd go for Greg.
Yeah, I think look, there's a few kind of iconic, legendary names that kick about our industry, right? And Greg's name is always included in it. But for me, Savage is the bloke who he keeps giving back.
He does, yeah.
I mean, he knows his shit, right? He's been around the block and he's got the t-shirt, but he keeps giving back. He keeps showing up literally every day and he keeps giving back. So
he loves it.
I'd agree with it. Yeah, he does love it.
He was doing like 14-hour days during COVID. And I mean, he charges like a wounded bull. But I mean, he's passionate. He loves it. He's mad for it. And he does so much for free for us as well, to be fair. And he'll turn up if we've got a conference, anything where we need him to speak or get involved or training or anything. Like he loves it. He really does.
Mad for it. James, who do you admire in the recruitment industry? You can't say me, just try and keep it neutral.
Actually, there's a few people like the Morgan and Banks people were obviously exceptional in terms of what they did with Morgan and Banks and Talent 2. Not many people grow 2 businesses to the sizes that they built and did 2 mega deals. So those 2. Chairman Doy, the founder of Outsourcing Inc. Again, I mean, he's been doing this for a long, long time. He set outsourcing up from nothing, listed. I mean, he's still a major shareholder, and he's taken that to a global business, one of the biggest recruitment businesses in the world. And he is still extremely passionate about recruitment, staffing, and the outsourcing business globally. So, I mean, he's an exceptional character, and he doesn't speak any English, but I have a very good relationship with him. I think we're sort of kindred spirits. So I think he'd be number 1 for me.
So how do business, sorry, Simon, how do business meetings work then, James? Obviously through a translator.
Basically, yeah.
Are you ever worried that your Yorkshire accent isn't being translated properly?
You just know like what someone's about, and I think we both sort of intrinsically know what we're about, and then someone's just sort of translating. But we understand each other, and I think there's a mutual respect, which is I like it. Yeah, he's an incredible guy.
Good stuff. Chairman Doy.
I was going to say, how old is he, James? Is he to have accomplished all of that in his career? He must be.
How old is he? I don't know actually. Probably late 50s maybe.
Wow.
Maybe early 60s actually.
Very good. Very good. All right, Simon. You can't say footballer. If you hadn't had a career in recruitment, what career would you like to have had?
Good question. You know what? The more I read these special forces SAS books and stuff like that, and I've been watching, was it Who Dares Wins and stuff over the Christmas holidays, I would just love to have been in the forces, I reckon. I wish I'd just not done the A-levels, not done the university stuff, and just kind of joined the Marines or something.
I could see you in the forces. You wouldn't have to get your hair cut.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good to go.
You've got the physique for it as well, mate.
Thanks.
Well, there's a compliment. There's a compliment I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
James Owen, what would you have been if you hadn't been CEO of Bluefin Resources?
Well, when I was a kid, I love like nature, the natural world. David Attenborough, David Bellamy.
Bellamy.
David Bellamy went really small. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I remember him, yeah.
Big blades of grass.
Love that, yeah. So maybe something along those lines, like a David Bellamy.
I did get offered auditions for Biker Grove twice, by the way, but I turned it down. Yeah, something. I don't know.
You could have been the original Ant and Deck.
Could have been.
Bone and hair.
Turned it down. Peer pressure. It was embarrassing when your name comes out on the tannoy at school. Can you report to Mrs. Foster's classroom at lunchtime for auditions for Biker Grove? You just got absolutely rinsed. So like twice I was offered it and yeah, knocked it back.
There'll be lots of Australians now Googling Biker Grove. Okay, Simon, what's the biggest mistake that you've ever made in your recruitment career?
So as a recruitment owner, so I'll break this down into being a recruitment owner and then as a recruiter. So as a recruitment owner, it would have to be, we entered into some terms of business on a government panel that absolutely killed us. Our model wasn't right in the way we set up as a business. And I know other businesses such as James's have thrived on the same panel, but it just killed us. And in hindsight, we should add more help around kind of how we model that and the opportunity and what it might look like if it becomes more of our business, if that makes sense. And I think we should have just been brave enough to walk away. So definitely entering onto that sort of government panel killed us back in the day. And it took us a long time to come back from that. And culturally, it just killed us for a few years.
How long did you sit in that arrangement before you did something about it?
Probably took 8 months before it hit the bottom line and our margin just tanked. It went from like being 17% of our business to suddenly 56% of our business, I think. And our margin went from sitting up at 18% down to 8% really like within 8 months.
Yeah, right.
And it was like, wow. So our sales was going through the roof. Our cost was going through the roof and our profit was going down.
Yeah.
So it's strange when our turnover was going through the roof and you're like, that's kind of a good thing, but it was bad quality business for us. So we should have walked away from that. And we knew then, right, we've got to get rid of this, but then it's kind of, you need help. And that we were talking about you, James, before you came on the call. We're talking about the fact, you run that business. I know you've got a leadership team. You certainly were the only owner, so you've had to make a lot of these decisions yourself. And I had Jill and Rick and a leadership team, but it was Greg Savage who helped us with like, listen, you've got to walk away from this, and this is how you do it. And he helped us through that process of how we do it. So imagine telling your staff, by the way, we're kind of firing our biggest client, if you like, at that moment in time. So it didn't go down very well. But as a recruiter, I think my biggest regret would have been I worked at a very large recruitment company in London, and I replied all on an email and didn't realize. And I told a friend how much I was in love with my now wife and what she meant to me, and she was the one and all that. We hadn't been together very long, and it went to the whole company. Yeah, so that was pretty embarrassing. She didn't know how I felt either, so yeah, that was a dark day.
But how did that go against you? That didn't work against you, did it? They would have just loved the romance.
Yeah, but when you've got like 400 colleagues reading I'm telling her like one of my best mates all about this girl I've met, and she's the one, and like what I think of her and kind of what we've been up to. I won't go into detail, but I went to the whole business now, so that was pretty brutal.
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
James, biggest mistake you've ever made?
I think I mentioned this in our prior interview, Recruitment Journeys, but my biggest mistake without doubt was when we'd come out of the GFC in 2009 strong, like real strong, and I thought, right, we're going to own the world now, and rapidly grew, doubled office space in Sydney, which was expensive, set up a new office in Melbourne, hired lots of people, and it went horribly wrong very quickly. Overhead costs were too high, hired the wrong quality of people. It did not have the desired effect of growing the business and growing the bottom line. In fact, the opposite happened. So that was a rude awakening and not a good experience. And without doubt, my biggest mistake of all time, but also my biggest learning of all time as well. So I haven't replicated that.
Yeah. So we all know the success story of Bluefin. So clearly you got things back on track. But how much time did you, for want of a better word, waste with that particular mistake? Did it put you back 2 years or 6 months?
Oh no, probably more. Like
Really?
like 3.
Wow. So you
Because
said
once it starts dropping, it like drops. Like, so you lose a bit of a year, then a full year, and then you're coming out picking up. So it takes a while to get back to where you were. So the whole sort of like dip was over more than 2 years.
yeah.
Cost millions of dollars in profit.
Yeah. So that's fundamentally that's 3 years of fishing that you missed out on.
Yeah, but that's life, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like you learn from those things, and you know, we came out of that, and then I'd like whatever it's been, like 7 back-to-back record years from the learning. So sometimes you've got to take the pain to learn the lessons to get accelerated exponential growth.
There you go.
But you know, I don't want to relive that. It wasn't a very nice experience, that's for sure. Pretty bloody stressful.
And then last question, chaps, before we get into the learnings from COVID. If you're both dads, and if your children approached you and said, right, Dad, want to get into recruitment, and after you'd spent 3 hours trying to convince them not to do so, what would be the number one piece of advice that you would give them as they entered the recruitment industry? Simon?
I actually think 2 of my kids out of 3 would be pretty good at it. The youngest is she's probably a bit too young to analyze that at the moment, but definitely my eldest daughter would be good at it. And James is too as well, definitely. I would say find the best business and find the best recruiter within that business and just do everything they tell you to do and more. And I think I was fortunate when I got into recruitment in London that Harvey Nash was, in my mind anyway, a very good business. And I ended up just being sat next to Jill, who was an absolute weapon. And like I would literally hang off her every word and do everything she told me to do, and it's worked out all right for me. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, get a mentor. James?
Yeah, I mean, if they were 100% committed to a career in recruitment, I would say to them that resilience and absolute dedication are the things that you're going to need to get through it. Because, yeah, there are going to be days where you just want to stop doing it because it's too hard. You're going to get so many knockbacks. But if you 100% believe in yourself and you want it, then you're going to have to get through those throughout your entire career because it doesn't stop. So I think that would probably be my biggest piece of advice, is that the resilience to get through the downs and the dedication just to keep going, doing the right things all of the time. And if they do those things, then they will be successful.
James, would you be happy if your kids pursued a career in recruitment?
I would be happy. I'd be happy with whatever my children want to do.
Yeah.
If recruitment is it, then fantastic. If it was something else, then fantastic. It's like whatever they want to do, they get my 100% support.
Yeah. My eldest asked me the other day if I'd be happy if he went to be a plumber.
Yeah.
So mate, I'd be absolutely excited. As long as you did it to the best of your ability and you loved it, I don't really care what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much work for tradies out here. You can't get them to bloody turn up. Have a good life, eh?
They're out fishing with James Stone. Right then, learnings from COVID. As I said earlier, we're all to a degree sick of talking about COVID, and it's not necessarily a distant memory, but it's certainly becoming that way. And I'm keen to hear from you chaps what you've learned from COVID. I want to focus on 3 areas. I want to find out what you learned about your people during COVID. And I want to find out what you learned about business during COVID, not necessarily your business, but business. What business lessons did you get through courtesy of COVID? And then finally, I want to find out what you learned about yourself, which is a bit deep. And you might have to go a bit deep. You might have to look inwards and tell me what you discovered about yourself during COVID. But again, Simon, I'll start with you, if you don't mind. What did you learn about your people during COVID?
Yeah, that a lot. I think I think trust is the word. I was pretty old school, leader as such. And, you know, cat's away, the mice play. If you can't see them, they're probably not working. Like one of those old school recruitment leaders, because that's the way I'd been managed and led, you know, and you replicate that with your staff. But for me, we were kind of forced into this working from home scenario. The tech was all set up, that was all good, but I had to put my trust in them, and they had to put their trust in us as a leadership team. And I was really worried about the resilience levels, because this generation, they haven't been through a GFC or a downturn, and I was fearing the worst. And I've been blown away by the resilience levels and how they adapted. And now, as you know, we've got this model where we're 50% from home and 4-day, 5-day a week, and I've just been blown away. Yeah.
So you've actually changed your business model, you know, your structure around when your people need to be in the office based on that trust that you've discovered. Can you tell us what you've done?
So to put it into, we've stumbled across, I suppose, in the equation that works for us. So if you walked into our business today compared to 12 months ago, it's a completely different feel, the energy, the performance, the productivity, it's completely different. And it's all because we've stumbled across this solution off the back of COVID that we probably would never have got to. And we were forced into trusting them, and it worked. So to put it into context, if the next 5 months of this financial year are like the last 7 months, we'll have a record year in terms of margin coming in and profit. So like we stumbled across it and it works. So we're like, why not keep this 4-day, 5-day, but pay the team for 5 days, but they're only obliged to work 4. Actually, let me rephrase that. They'll be paid for 5 days, but they're obliged to work and do whatever it takes to achieve their targets and goals and outcomes, if that makes sense. But we've got one girl, she'll bill over 800 grand, Abby, and she only works 3 days a week. She's got kids. So I've just been blown away by the fact that, you know, you give these people flexibility and trust, and you give them the support, and like they are a really resilient bunch and a proper team. Like they've become closer and a real team, you know.
So as a leader, Simon, that must give you this sense of this peace of mind. You know, if you've spent the last 10 years stressed out about whether they're working hard and just because you're not in the room, and suddenly you've just embraced this trust, you must feel better in yourself.
So, you know, when James was telling you his story just there about riding this wave and coming out the GFC and smashing it and hiring people, and I'm just paranoid because we've been hurt in similar ways to James. You know, all it takes is one bad egg. You hire one bad person. We had somebody start on Monday, funny enough, our first person kind of in 12 months, and just paranoid really about making the same mistakes and just checking yourself and thinking, right, how have we got here and why we've got here and what is it that we're doing well and that we need to keep doing and adapting, and just, I suppose, just doing the basics right and just making sure it's hiring for us really. Yeah. Really got to be careful with who we hire, because all it takes is one, as James knows. And so it's up to you, Pete. You've got to find us some good people, man.
Yeah, Pete, what are you doing?
Sat on here doing this when you should be out there heading
podcasts.
You're doing too many bloody podcasts.
And to be fair to James, that's where he's done well. When over the years he's hired really, really well, and I know he's took some people from the likes of S3 in the past and stuff, good businesses, and all it takes is you hire one good person who does well, and the friends here and they want to come, and then they do well, and then the friends want to come, and James has done that really well over the years.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So James, you've got a sizable business. What is it across the States? Is it 80, 90 people at the moment?
Simon will probably know more than me, but
68, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Cool. So what did you learn about your people, James?
Simon, trust was a big one. Obviously, you know, COVID's a big game changer in terms of how you work. So trust was a big one. Empowerment was a big one as well. Like, I think it was important to give everyone a say in how things panned out and how the working styles and rhythms changed as COVID changed, and making sure people had a say in that, because I obviously wanted to get people back into the office as quickly as possible and get that buzz back and culture back and that sort of critical mass. But at the same time, you know, you obviously had to be very empathetic about what everyone was going through, and it was different for everyone. So empowering people so they had a say in what was happening, I think, was really important. Communication as well. Like, obviously communication is important all the time, but during a crisis, I learned how critical it was in terms of, like, it had to be continuous, like what was happening. They wanted to hear from me. They wanted to know what was going on through lots of different channels. And the power of that communication was, whether it was good or bad or whatever it was, people just wanted to hear it. And they wanted to hear it from me as the CEO and the leader, because that gave people sort of comfort and stability. So I think that was also a big learning about how important clear and consistent communication was through challenging times. And also just, you know, how, I mean, I know I've got amazing people, but how amazing they really are in a really tough time, and how people adapted to it. Like, my people were just incredible. I was just so proud of how they got through it, and, you know, how, you know, they united and brought everyone together. It was, yeah, it was beautiful to see, actually. Yeah, it made me proud of being the leader of Bluefin.
We all talk about the strength and the resilience of recruiters, but there would have been some recruiters who I'm getting off topic slightly, it's just occurred to me, there would have been some recruiters in your businesses who might have struggled. What did you do in those instances? Did you kind of focus in on them and put an arm around them and guide them through it?
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone gets support to get through what they're going through. But obviously at the same time, everyone has accountability to do what they need to do to get through it as well. And
yeah,
you know, the vast majority of cases that, you know, most people got through it, but, you know, some didn't.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So look, you're both of a certain vintage. That this is not your first rodeo in terms of market downturns.
Yeah.
GFC being the obvious one, but can you tell us what you learned about business? What business lessons you received courtesy of COVID that you maybe didn't experience in previous times, Simon?
So there's two really. I think, first of all, having that large spread of clients across different industries and different sectors. We've done a lot of work over the years, last 2 or 3 years, on like account plans and identifying opportunities in different businesses and different sectors. And it's kind of spread maybe now across 6 to 8 main clients. And I think that helped us. You know, if we were just in Qantas or hospitality, we would have got absolutely smashed. I probably wouldn't be here doing this. And I think the fact that we had this spread of clients across different industries and sectors, that really helped us absorb kind of what came in March, April. And then it will be terms of business. We've walked away from a lot of business and we've pushed back a lot and negotiated hard. We were in negotiations for over 12 months with one of Australia's most iconic clients, who one of our big clients. And like, that has helped us be the business we are today, you know, having those terms in place. It's really important how you collect cash, how quickly you collect cash, and that you get paid and rewarded a fair margin for what you do. Even, you know, like, nothing hurts more than when one of your contractors goes perm and you don't get a fee that you feel is justified. In my mind, contractor perm is where we get screwed in this industry, because it's you place somebody who's adding value to that business, and they're so good that they're getting to permanent. You should be rewarded. Like, if you rent a property and you want to buy it, you still have to pay full fee or pay full price. It doesn't get deducted, and that is my big bugbear in this industry, where clients turn around and say, you know, we would like to take them permanent. You don't get a decent enough fee, or you get no fee sometimes. I think that hurts. So yeah, it will be terms of business, and it will be having a variety of clients across different industries. That was my big learning, where I was like, right, we're onto something here. We need to keep pushing along and pushing back with clients. Just basically don't do shit business and work with a variety of clients. Yeah,
very good. James Hone, what business lessons did you learn courtesy of COVID-19?
It didn't actually. I mean, obviously, it was very different to the GFC and that sort of downturn we had a couple of years after the GFC in financial services. It didn't really feel that different to those really. It sort of almost felt like, well, yeah, it's different in that it's a pandemic. And so I suppose what it did is the lessons learned from those prior downturns and the things that we put in place after that, like Simon said, like diversification of clients, different industries, you know, having a much stronger contract base, having high performers, you know, good staff retention, you know, all those sorts of things. Like when you put those in place, when your downturn comes along, and obviously COVID was a downturn, that you navigate through that downturn a lot more effectively, and you obviously come out of it a lot more effectively. So I suppose it was quite, you know, reinforcing in a way that our prior lessons from other downturns and how we adapted the business served us very well through COVID. So that was sort of affirmation. But I think that the lessons were, it comes down to what the lessons about the people was around the sort of value of communication and the importance of that. And also the, you know, we've always been a flexible place to work, but yeah, I mean, that's shown that you can have very flexible work environment and still perform at a high level. So I think.
Do you think it was worse than the GFC?
No, the GFC was
Brutal.
for us personally. GFC was a nightmare.
Wow.
This was just more, it was just, I think the GFC, you just knew what was happening. It was just a long haul. It was just brutal. Whereas this was just changing every day, wasn't it? What was going on? And it was just bizarre. Like to the point that you're worried about your own personal health and the virus, and you're worried about your family and your colleagues and friends, and just bizarre. It was just changing all the time. But I think the government were amazing with the stimulus and how they stepped up.
Australia's been amazing. I mean, what a great place to be during COVID. Not just to live, but to do business. Like, well, having said that, Melbourne's been an absolute nightmare. So I'd probably take Melbourne out of that because that was an absolute bomb site.
It was literally a bomb site, yeah.
Yeah, I won't harp on about that, but bloody ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, Simon, are you saying that COVID, in your mind, COVID was worse than GFC?
I think in terms of, because we've never worked through a pandemic before. So it was a little bit like the GFC was just, especially with James, where he does a lot of financial business. I think it was just like, that was just tough in terms of like, just got head down, slog and manage your cost, and it's going to pick up at some point, be ready. Whereas I think there was a lot of moving parts with the pandemic and a lot of fear. Like some of the reporting from the press was just disgrace, really, wasn't it? The clickbait and I think it was just brutal. But I've been massively I can't believe how quickly it's come back though, the economy and stuff. It's just I didn't expect to be sitting here now talking about what we've been talking about. I think it's amazing, and that's down to, I think, the resilience of some of the industries and sectors and businesses that we've got. But it's that government stimulus that creates confidence. When you look at the markets and how they're up and the equity markets, it's just bizarre.
So what do you what do you think 2021 looks like? Do you think we've got a tough 12 months ahead of us, or do you think it's going to explode halfway through the year?
This is going to be a belting year, this one.
Really?
I think,
recruitment radar, like my recruitment radar has been developed over many, many years, and it's usually pretty good. I mean, it's sending out all these signals that are saying 2021 is going to be a belter.
Yeah, I think that it's partly because, it's been so bad that it just feels good anyway. But I think you're right. Like, we did a survey of all of our clients across the 3 markets that we work, and it came back like super positive about hiring for this year. Like, and I was super positive back end of last year until obviously Northern Beaches went into a lockdown. But
there's Northern Beaches, eh?
Yeah, but I came back to work in January, and I've never ever come back after a Christmas break and seen like literally every recruiter has got so much work on and interviews happening and like contractor numbers growing and perm more margin than ever and more placements. It's just like, long may it continue.
That would explain why none of them are out there looking for jobs.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
It's just you've been asleep, mate.
You're busy doing this, Pete.
The clients are like, this is the new norm. Like, so much volatility and uncertainty last year, and there is to a certain degree of that this year. But I think organisations and clients now are just accepting that this is the new norm, and that everyone has to continue on and do business.
Yeah.
Part of that is acceptance that there is this uncertainty, a bit of volatility, but we've got to keep doing business. Keep doing business. That means we've got to hire, and like Simon says, working, jobs on, pipeline is looking really good already this year. I reckon we'll be having a record 4-week period in the not so distant future.
Good to hear.
I think our biggest challenge is having that, like the workforce, James. I think you've got a good business there with plenty of recruiters, but imagine there'd be smaller businesses than ours that have got so much work coming in, they can't handle it, and then how can they hire and get people on board quickly enough?
Yeah.
You think of the businesses that let people go last year, or people who've moved on.
Yeah,
There was so quickly.
A lot of severe cutting last year from some firms, and they'll be wanting to hire. I mean, for me, that's always been one of our biggest bottlenecks, is we can't find enough great recruiters, Pete.
This is backfiring in so many ways.
Yeah.
But the interesting, from a rec to rec perspective.
Any good rec to recs out there, give me a call.
I'll just edit that bit out. No, I won't. I'll leave it in. The interesting thing is, on that point, so many recruiters have left the industry, right? So many young recruiters have said, "Nah, this is not the career for me." So many old recruiters have said, "Right, this is my chance to exit." A lot of recruiters have gone back to the UK. A lot of recruiters in the UK can't get into Australia. A lot have gone internal. So the industry is going to have to feed itself with Australian talent. Yeah. And I think recruitment businesses like yourselves are going to have to get creative about how you bring more Australians into the industry.
I think there's something in this for you, Pete, like a new TV show. Australia's got recruitment talent.
Well, this is where they come on. So when they walk onto stage and they have to conduct a client interview.
Business development line.
Yeah, they have to do a cold call.
Yeah.
In front of Simon Cowell, in front of St. James Hone and Simon Hare.
That could work.
Right, chaps, last question before we wrap it up. Bit of a personal one. Look inwards. I'm keen to find out what you learned about yourself during COVID. Not business, not recruitment. What did you learn about yourself as a human? Simon.
Silence.
Definitely learned about that.
Yeah, clearly not much.
As James said, I'm obviously a physical specimen. Thanks for that, James. And spent a lot of time in the gym and exercising over the years, but probably neglecting the brain and the head. And as I mentioned earlier, I spent a lot of time. I must have read every article about COVID in March and April and even May, and didn't sleep very well. And then I got introduced to meditation and the powers, and people saying you don't just exercise and train your body, you should be training your brain as well. And so I learned the importance of meditation, and I definitely perform better when I'm mentally and physically rested. So I've learned how to switch off, and meditation and taking a holiday and getting away from the tech, and I'm better at home off the back of that as well, kind of with the family and whatnot. So I think that would be something I learned. I've been probably overdoing it over the years and had the balance wrong. I've been that old school kind of, the harder you work, the more hours you put in, the more success you'll have. And actually, you know what? Probably wrong. You've got to try and get the balance right. Probably be a lot happier. I had a lot more success if I'd maybe dived into meditation earlier, or understood the importance of more breaks and taking holidays and getting away from it. James obviously doesn't need any invites to go on holidays and breaks. He's always fishing and whatnot. So he obviously worked that out a lot earlier than me. Yeah. But I think also showing that vulnerability. There was times in March, April where I really didn't have answers for the team, and I was really scared and thinking, shit, what is going to happen? And showing that vulnerability and put my hands up and saying to the team, I don't know. We're kind of working this out as we go. Just kind of bear with us and support us and trust us. And I think from the working from home point of view, I've definitely learned that that's just not for me. I need to be around people, and I'm much more productive at home when I'm alone. I get more done, but I'm not happy. I need to be around people, you know. So there's people in the UK right now, and you guys who were in Melbourne, I would have really struggled.
Yeah, but we're tough. We're tough in Melbourne.
So that's tough, yeah.
We battle through. Hey, tell me how many times a week or day do you meditate?
Do it twice for 20 minutes. So we had this guy come in called Tim. So I train with this guy in the gym. He's
Brown.
CEO, high performer. Darren Holland runs a property company. And this guy's in the gym before me, and he's up at 4 something. And I'm like, Darren, do you ever get tired? And he's like, no, I meditate, and it's just changed my life. And I never get tired because I meditate. So he passed me on the details to a guy whose surname I can't remember. Tim
Brown.
Tim Brown, yeah.
His brother lives on my street. Small world.
That's right. Tim's this guru. I think he learned from the guy who taught the Beatles meditation, and I think he's working with the Wallabies now and stuff like that. This guy is an absolute guru. He's just twice a day, 20 minutes, switch off. And I'm one of them, whenever I've tried it before, my mind would wander, and then I'd punish myself during meditation. So I was like, oh, you're such a dickhead. Why are you kind of letting your mind wander? You're meant to be. And he was like, no, you just smile to yourself and continue and focus on the breathing. So now I'll train in the mornings, and then I'll just kind of sit at Manly Beach with my back against the wall there on the sand with my sunnies on. And I'll do 20 minutes meditation. And then in the afternoon, well, actually, this room I'm in now, we're going to create this and change this into a meditation room here at work, because the staff, he came in and did a session with the staff, and they all loved it. And yeah, so we're going to make it part of the culture, you know. So
right, well, I'm gonna ring you at some point and get some tips, because everybody keeps telling me that I need to get into meditation, because the way my brain's wired, apparently I would benefit massively from meditation. I've tried a couple of times, but I keep fucking it up.
Definitely, I want to get my kids into it as well, because like James, you know, our daughters, the school they're in and the pressure, and my daughter's mad for her rowing, and she's decided she wants to be a doctor, so she's mad for kind of trying to study for that. And I think if education schools could do one thing, it would be get kids into this and start practicing it at schools, you know. I think it's a game changer.
Look at you, converted.
They've got no interest in it.
No, they haven't, no.
I'm like, come on, this is really good.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing it, Dad. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah. But I was like that even a year ago. I was like, meditation, weirdos, like, always. But I'm on board now.
You have to get yourself some linen pants. Now, James, we all know that fishing is your meditation.
I meditate as well, but anyway.
Do you meditate?
I've been meditating for years.
Have you?
Yeah, he's deep, he's spiritual, James.
Transcendental.
How is that different to what Simon does?
I don't know what Simon does.
Do you do transcendental?
I just sit there.
It's the same. It's a lot of it's the same. You know.
Basically, just giving your brain and rest, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
He told me this, Tim Brown told me this, he said in 2 days we take in the same amount of information as what we would have took in a lifetime 200 years ago. So imagine that. That's your average person. Think of what we're getting pushed at us constantly, in like emails, technology, and traffic and life. It's full on, eh?
Yeah. James Hone, what did you learn about yourself during COVID-19?
Well, I mean, I agree with Simon that when there's a lot of pressure like that, you do need to look after yourself, and you can't just do like the physical exercise. I think you have to look after the mind. You can't just look after the mind and not the body. Like, you have to do both. So that physical exercise and the meditation, those two things combined go a long way to making sure that you stay strong through a very challenging period, and you stay top of your game, so you can give the best support to all the people that rely on you as a CEO. So I think that's getting that balance, like Simon said, I agree, is really important. And the other one is, I would say, really listening to your people, like really listening, and making a real effort to empathize with everyone, because everyone experiences COVID, has experienced COVID very differently, and it's important as a leader to understand that there is great diversity in the way people are dealing with it, experiencing it. And whilst you obviously have certain goals and things how you want to get the business through it, so important that you're bringing everyone along the journey, and it's definitely not one size fits all. And I think probably, yeah, I've really had to listen a lot more intently than ever before.
How hard is that? Listening is hard.
Oh, it's really hard, actually. I mean, you've really got to take your own ego out of it and everything out. You've got to try and remove everything, all your beliefs and everything, and just listen to everyone and how they're experiencing it. And then, you know, the decisions you make and the communication around that needs to try and address everyone, and what their experiences and how they're responding to things. And yeah, that's
even if you don't agree, even if you don't agree with their opinion or their perception of a situation, that's their experience, right? That's what they are going through.
You can't not agree with it because it's someone's experience. So, you know, you just have to accept that everyone's experiencing it differently, and that's on a, you know, in many cases is different to how you're experiencing it. So
yeah,
I think in these cases it's very easy to sort of, you know, talk to the people that are experiencing what you're experiencing, and that just builds up your view on it. And then you sort of, what you're doing is that you're isolating your own view and not listening to everyone else's. And you know, in some circumstances that can get you through, but in, you know, when there's a crisis and there's so, you know, there's health issues and so many different things that are at stake, that that ability to really, really listen, and empathize, and then sort of communicate with people accordingly. Yeah, that was probably a big thing for me personally. And that doesn't come that easily to me, being so unempathetic.
James, tell me, Simon's just been fairly honest about there were times when he kind of struggled and he was vulnerable, and it sounds like there was a couple of dark days for Simon during COVID. What about you? Did you have any sleepless nights? Did you have any periods of grave concern? Or
not sleepless. Actually, the first 6 months for me personally were fine. Like, it was probably the last 3 months when we were trying to get more people back into the office. That was probably the hardest time, actually. And there was a few that, like, you know, I'm just doing this acquisition. There was just so much going on. It was just like, bloody hell, you know, can't wait for Christmas.
Well, chaps, thank you so much.
5 days a week, Pete. I mean, there's not a lot of fishing going on through COVID.
How often do you fish?
More fish during COVID? There's more dogs, isn't there? But I wonder if there's more fish during COVID.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really out there much.
How often do you fish, James?
Well, as much as possible, but I don't know. Like, yeah, when COVID came along, I was working pretty much part time before that. After the deal, I don't know. I was pretty much doing 4 or 5 days a week. So if I can, I'll do 2 days fishing.
Good man, good man. Well, chaps, thank you so much. Thank you very much for coming on to Recruitment Journeys and telling us a bit more about yourself and telling us about what you've learned through COVID. Glad to hear that you're both upbeat about the market. Glad to hear that you both think 2021 is going to be massive.
Bring it on. Just get us some good recruiters, Pete.
You, Pete, now.
Yeah, based on this conversation, I might have to scrap the podcast and go back to my day job.
I would. You're very good. You're very good at your podcast. I think this TV show's got legs. But if you want some co-hosts, I think me and Simon are obviously, you know, good choices.
Hair and horn, or horn and hair.
Horn and hair, yeah. One stands on the left, the other stands on the right.
Double H. There you go.
Thank you, chaps.
All right.
Best of luck for the rest of the year.
And you.